The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
Are we good? Oh. Good evening. It's July 28th, 2025. And this is an interview scheduled for 6:20. My name is Pauline Cormier. I am the chairwoman of the Ways and Means Committee. The other members of my committee is to my left, Councillor Frank Ardinger, and to my right, Councillor David Cormier. This evening, we're here on C-6, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Respectfully request the appointment of the following to the Board of Appeals, term to expire April 15th of 2028. Joining us this evening is Attorney Elizabeth Boucher of Johnny Appleseed Lane in Leominster. I want to welcome you, Ms. Boucher.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
And just to open things up, I'd like to offer you the opportunity at this point to introduce yourself to the council and the people watching at home. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to seek appointment to this position.
Yes, thank you. Hello, councilors and committee members.
Can you just check your microphone?
Sergeant at Arms will take
Do I
care
need
of
to
that.
speak up? How's that?
Perfect.
Thank you. As you know, my name is Elizabeth Boucher, and I'm honored to appear before you today as a nominee for the Zoning Board of Appeals. I am a young attorney, and I have dreams of making the city and the community that I live in a better place. And as someone who has connections with this community going back 60 years through my family, I find that it's my time to step up and to contribute to that, to making Leominster a better community. And it's already great, but we can always improve.
Thank you. What qualifications or what do you think you bring to the table to the Board of Appeals?
Sure. I have a legal background. I am a civil litigation attorney, and I do have some experience with land use litigation and also development. And I think that as being an attorney with legal training, I will have the ability to really appreciate and read the bylaws of the city. Also noting that a balance oftentimes needs to be struck between following the letter of the law, but also appreciating the ever-evolving and changing needs of the community.
Excellent. I don't have any other questions, but I'm going to turn it over to members of my committee first. Councillor Ardinger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Chairwoman, sorry. I have to say one thing, Attorney Boucher. You're overqualified. No, I appreciate you coming down here tonight to speak to us because your resume is very impressive.
Thank you.
Your background is very impressive. And my favorite question is what specific things you would bring to the position. I started, sorry about that, but you answered that. And when I was reading your resume, I looked at, if I can do this, 2 items: strong writing and oratory communication, very important, and critical thinking and analytical reasoning. And for that position on the Zoning Board of Appeal, you will certainly need those qualifications. Listening to people that sometimes may be a little disappointed in your rulings, but being fair at the same time. But I appreciate your coming down and talking to us, and I would support your appointment 100%.
Thank you. And to your point, I would approach each petition with diligence, impartiality, and a sincere commitment to the integrity of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you very much. I guess I just have one question. Sorry, I don't think the mic's on. Now it is. I just have one question. Is there something, I know that you have, that legal background and the land use that you explained. Is there really anything else that attracted you to the ZBA versus maybe like the planning board or, any of the other boards or commissions? What kind of stands out at the ZBA that you found this position attractive?
I actually really like that the ZBA is a quasi-judicial entity, and I figured that's a really great way for me to get experience and expand my resume. And I think local government is extremely important, and sometimes it's overshadowed by the noise of the things at the national level right now. But really, what's happening in the community directly impacts the community. And I think that eventually I'd like to grow beyond the ZBA, but I thought the ZBA was a very appropriate place to start.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I thank you very much for, stepping up to the plate, and I think your resume and your experience certainly match the position well. I think you'll do very, very well there.
Thank you.
And I appreciate, your service to our community. I look forward to your confirmation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the council? Councilor Bedanza.
Elizabeth, I remember meeting you when law school was still in the offing a number of years ago, and
Look how far I've come.
seeing the excitement in your eyes back then, and very proud of all the progress you've made. You've done a great job. I know you had a passion for it very early on, and thank you for stepping forward and volunteering for the city. It's important that we attract young people, especially, to step into these positions and contribute, give back. So thank you for volunteering.
I agree with you 100%. Thank you.
Any other members of the council? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much. I just have a comment. No, your resume is really impressive, and it seems like a very perfect fit, really, for the ZBA. So that's great. I was curious, however, about your fluency in French. Now, how did you come to that? Has that been a kind of a lifelong thing that you've studied, or?
Yeah, my grandparents emigrated here from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They spoke French Canadian, which is a little bit different than the French that I was trained in.
Mm-hmm.
But they did not really pass it on to my aunts and my uncles and my father. And in a way that saddened me a little bit because I thought it was a beautiful thing to preserve that heritage. So I pursued the study in school.
Mm-hmm. Great. Good. Thank you.
Councilor Noseworthy?
Thank you. I just want to echo everything everyone else has said. Your resume is phenomenal. I was also counselor at large, got to it before I did, but I was also going to mention, I think whenever we bring volunteers in who are bilingual, it's just especially now more than ever, just a phenomenal asset and sort of showing equity and inclusion to, the rest of the community. But also echoing what Councilor at Large Ardinger mentioned about critical thinking. Boy, do we need that. Everybody does. Time management and organization. And I think the values that you mentioned really I'm just really impressed and grateful that you've stepped up to serve the city. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Any other councilors? Councilor Frida?
Just a welcome aboard. I think for many, many years, we had an attorney on the zoning board, and for the last quite a few years, we have not. I think it's pretty important to have an attorney in that position. So I absolutely agree. I look forward to confirming your appointment.
Thank you. I'm glad to fulfill the role.
Are we good? Attorney Boucher, I will, this basically concludes the formal part of the interview. Thank you for coming in, and I will extend my appreciation to you. It's a very important position in the city, and I'll be happy to make the recommendation a little later on in the meeting. You are welcome to wait and sit through the meeting, and I will ask our president if we can move it up a little bit on the agenda. But you're welcome to wait, or if you have someplace to be, we will take the vote a little bit later in the meeting, and we will get in touch with you and let you know.
Okay, I'm happy to wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's 6, yeah, you're ready to go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, this is a public hearing on C-1. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the digital equity plan, as submitted by the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, be considered and subsequent approved by the City Council. This initiative was funded through the federal ARPA and Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Leominster was provided with a $40,000 in technical assistance funds for digital equity planning to hire the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to analyze access to the internet and digital technology. In addition, $57,000 has been reserved by the Montechusett Broadband Institute for the implementation of Leominster's digital equity plan. The Montechusett Regional Commission has submitted background information to the City Council. The implementation grant is due on July 30th, 2025. And I believe we have someone from the Montechusett Regional Planning, and it looks like he's going to be joined by Wendy Weeks. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you for having me.
Could you just state your name, please?
For the record, Jeff LeGros with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, Senior Planner.
Mr. LeGros, if you want to start your presentation and fill us in here.
Perfect. So thank you for having me. You summarized it pretty well. We have a digital equity plan that was prepared for the city by the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission in coordination with several people here in the city, including Town Planner Elizabeth Wood, Wendy. We met with the library, the senior center, the housing authority, Leominster Television, and we sought public input through surveys far and wide. Surveys went out through the water bill. We got a really good response to the survey. And so we gathered a lot of feedback on this to identify the community needs related to digital equity. And with that, I will jump in. So the quick program overview, the Massachusetts Broadband Institute has funded this program at no cost to the city. There was no requirement for a city match, so we did the planning at no cost to the city. And then in addition to that, a small amount of money was set aside for the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to...
It's not moving. Hold on.
It's not good to have trouble with the digital.
I know.
There we go. We're good. So I appreciate that, Councilor Frieda. You're absolutely right. And this is what we found when we were doing the planning, right? That at all different levels, even the planner here giving the presentation could really use some digital literacy training and resources, right? Sometimes you may be really good with a computer, but the technology and the connections and those things, and that's really what this is all about. Not only are we trying to help improve the city's population and their kind of access to better internet and also public internet and public spaces, but also to digital resources and digital technology and to improve the city's ability. You guys have an excellent presentation, system all set up here, but some of the more rural communities that we worked with and potentially some of the other offices or departments within the city might not have that. And that's what this grant really aims to improve upon in places like the Veteran Center and the Senior Center, where they could use technology that's just as good as the technology here in City Hall. And so that's what we aim to do. We met with everyone to identify their needs. As I mentioned, a small amount of money was set aside for the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. Once the plan was completed and approved, we're now in the process of helping the city, and that's the very next step after this, submit an implementation grant. So not all plans have that, right? Typically, a plan isn't fully funded. It typically costs the city some amount with a match. This case, it didn't. And then not only that, once you have a plan in place, there was funding set aside. And for the city, I believe it was $56,000 and change, almost $57,000. And the city can apply for up to $100,000 to implement the actions that were included in the plan. And that's a great thing, that two-step process and the fact that it was fully funded for both. And so really quick, the components of the plan, we had an introductory section that talked about the background of what digital equity is, what the 3 A's of digital access, affordability, accessibility, affordability, and adoptability. We have the planning process outlined. We have the existing conditions that were identified here specifically within Leominster, and then we have the community needs that we found through meeting with stakeholders and conducting the community survey. And then from all of that information, we established a vision and a set of goals and actions. The introductory section, as I mentioned, availability, affordability, and adoption, or the 3 A's of digital access, right? Under access, those 3 A's are a really important underlying theme here. And there are the actual Digital Equity Act that moved forward this type of planning at both the state level and at local municipal levels, included 8 covered populations, and they're shown here. Quickly, covered households, which is an income-based covered population, aging individuals over 60, or aging adults over 60, right? Incarcerated individuals or those who were previously incarcerated, veterans, individuals with disabilities, those with a language barrier. In addition to a language barrier, that's not only English learners or non-English speakers, right? That's also individuals that have lower levels of literacy and therefore need a little bit of additional kind of assistance with understanding how to use a computer, how to use the internet, and maybe better access to some of these devices that are available to them. And so the final ones are individuals or members of a racial or ethnic minority group and individuals who primarily reside in rural areas. Leominster includes all of those except for the 8th, individuals who reside in rural areas. However, as one of the gateway cities here in this relatively rural region, Leominster serves a lot of the rural communities that are around it. And so that's still an important covered population to think about here. And so the second section of the plan talks about values and practices, some of the important themes. This infographic on the lower right kind of gives you an understanding of what the difference between equity and equality is, and it makes a good example based on everyone has different heights, right? So if you gave everybody the same 3 books, they're still going to be different heights. So certain people need certain resources that will help them to succeed, and that varies depending on the covered population you're talking about. And with that, we'll move into the planning process a little bit. We conducted a public survey. We went out and we spoke with the stakeholders and the community members, as well as the city departments. We flyered at a couple of different events. One of them was the National Night Out here downtown. And then we held several focus group meetings and workshops, core team meetings throughout the process. We met as a team to really guide the process and get input from the city. And then with that, from that information and from that public planning process, we were able to establish the existing conditions here in Leominster. And you can see that Leominster has over 99% coverage of internet already, which is a really good thing. 99% of the households have access to service, right? Or service that is available to them. But that doesn't mean that everybody can gain that service or can afford that service, right? And so if you look down in subscriptions, it's actually 91%, and that's a really big difference. I mean, yes, it's only 7 or 8%, but that's a big difference, and especially when the internet is such an essential need in our everyday lives. And really, that number shouldn't be much lower than 100% anywhere, given the need and the importance of internet nowadays. Sure, there will be a select few individuals who choose not to adopt or adapt and who really don't need it, or at this point of their life, they've gone so far without it. But really, we want to make it available to them. And if they choose not to adopt it at home, they still should have access to it in public places like the library or the senior center, or places where they're comfortable like the Veterans Center, as another example. And so with that, we have here sort of a table of those existing conditions and how they relate to every part of the community based on the census tracts. And That's something that you may have already seen in the plan, or you can dive into a little bit more deeper to understand exactly what those dynamics are by census tract. But what you will see is that citywide, there is a pretty substantial, over 65, 66% of the population as part of one or more covered populations. So this was really important here in Leominster. A large amount of the community was a covered population here. And so these just identify some of the needs, like additional devices and public computers and workstations, public Wi-Fi, digital literacy classes and resources, additional resources for digital learning, hotspots. The library currently loans out a large number of hotspots, and they're almost always on loan and really at a waiting list. They had to kind of set up some policies so that there was a cooling off period where someone returned a hotspot, they had to wait 24 or 48 hours before they could take one back out so that other people had the option to get one. So what that told us early on was that there's a need for more, and they could loan more if they had them. And so that was one of the important things that came here and became an action item in the grant. Other things such as updating the city website to make sure it's fully ADA compliant. And I know the city's been going through some updates recently of their website, and relative to other communities, they have a pretty good, high-quality website. So there's probably not a lot of work to be done there to look through it, make it fully compliant, if it's not already. And then another one to consider is partnerships, right? So Leominster and Fitchburg is the two gateway cities in this region. I noted how they serve the greater rural region. One of the really big things and benefits of this city is that it has a lot of social services organizations. So people have the ability to go and get the services they need. And that's, developing partnerships with those organizations that can help to serve the community more directly in ways that the city might not is important in this digital planning process. And so with that, we established a set of goals and recommendations. And those 5 goals shown here have to do with improving effectiveness or efficiency and quality of internet, increasing access to affordable, fast, reliable internet, expanding internet service and device distribution throughout the community, increasing capabilities of Leominster's technological resources and their public digital workspaces, meaning computers and workspaces and digital resources within the different departments of the city. And then finally, what we're here to do tonight, as the follow-up to this, right, once this plan is approved, immediately the city will be seeking and securing funding opportunities to invest in long-term support for digital equity and programs and services. And so that brings us to just an infographic here of the action plan. And on the top right, what you see is the amount of money, the funds that have been currently reserved for the city of Leominster. Those funds are guaranteed, non-competitive, which is great. The implementation program application is just under $100,000 worth of needs that we've identified for the city, but 56 of those are guaranteed, and we anticipate that NBI will fund an additional amount more because we think the city has a strong application, and we imagine it will be closer to 100,000. We imagine and hope based on the quality of the application. And so with that, the next steps, what are the next steps? So we held a public comment period back in May in preparation for this presentation, and we are now ready upon approval to submit the final plan to NBI. Once the plan is approved, essentially that happens immediately. We email it and upload it to their online form, and the key is to get the approval of this body before we can do that. NBI approves the plan, and then we've already been meeting and working on an implementation grant as we have been moving forward here. And so those priority actions come directly from the plan, and we'll have that application ready to be finalized and submitted by the end of this month, a week from now. It's mostly in good shape, and we have a few things and details to work out, and it's dependent upon this approval. But yeah, I would just like to say thanks to the City of Leominster. As always, it's a great community to work with, but in particular with this process, it's been fantastic, and we were able to connect with everyone that we needed to, and we got really good positive feedback through the public surveys. So thank you to the mayor, thank you to the city council, thank you to the residents here in Leominster, and everyone else who was involved in the process. We truly appreciated working with you and appreciated the opportunity to serve you with this plan and with the implementation grant application. And our hopes are high for that application.
Excellent. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to first go to members of my committee. Councilor Ardinger.
Thank you very much. Digital equity training. It seems like more and more we're being forced to do everything online. And as you said, there are a number of people that tend to resist that. How do you plan on getting those people to be involved? I mean, I'm serious. I work with some veterans, and there are some of them that will not touch a computer.
I can't say that I fully blame them, and that's really their right, you know. There are really things to be scared of with the internet, especially if you didn't grow up with it, right, or you're not comfortable with it. I'm in the middle. I'm of the generation that in elementary school, we first started using computers, but we didn't really use the internet until, I was almost through high school. I remember really working on my first report my senior year where I really used the internet, right? So I've been using it for a long time. A lot of people grew up with it. Then there are some people who did not, that chose to adopt it readily and were very comfortable doing that. And then there are others who have not. And all I can say there is that unfortunately, we are being almost forced, right? More and more, we have to use the internet to do certain things. Apply or renew a license or a registration, different government forms, healthcare, all of these other things that we used to be able to go in person and talk to somebody or make a phone call. It's not that simple anymore, and other people think it's easier and more convenient to use the internet, but that's not really the case or the same for everyone. And so that's really a big part of this planning, is trying to make it easier, not only for the people that do use it and that choose to use it and that are willing to adopt it, but also make it feel safer and more comfortable for those who are uncomfortable with it or distrustful or less willing to adopt it. And by doing that, putting internet, making it more easily accessible in public places and public spaces where they don't have to have it at home, but if there's something they have to do, there's a place they can go to use it. And hopefully with funds like this and with some of the programs we're applying for, there's somebody there who can answer their questions and has a little bit of background and knowledge to make that experience a little bit easier and more welcoming for them. I mentioned one thing in particular in the presentation, you may have noticed, but I mentioned it on purpose because we can't just put computers in the senior center and the library and think our job is done. You mentioned veterans specifically, and there are a lot of veterans who are more comfortable doing it at the Veteran Center with peers and people they know and trust, and at a place that they're comfortable being, and in a space maybe where they can maybe it's more quiet. They don't have to have a large crowd. They may not have to reserve an area or a space or sign in and give all this information just to feel like they can do something that they need to do, right? That's a necessity or a daily thing that they need to do, right? A need. And so by focusing and including the Veteran Center and putting workstations there, I think that helps in that regard. And the same thing with the senior center, having it there where seniors normally go and typically go, and they go there to recreate, they go there to visit, they go there for other programs and services. Why not have digital services there too? And part of this is to help get training for the senior center staff and program managers there so that they're comfortable answering some of the questions. They're doing it already. These questions are coming in and they're sort of acting as digital navigators already. This will help make them a little bit more experienced and skilled, to give them the training, the background training they need to better serve the people that they're serving. And in a way they're already serving them, really. This will help enhance it and make it better.
Okay. So would you take the training to the Veteran Center, to the Senior Center, and actually do the training there?
Yeah, so it's a two-step process. One of the things that's included in the implementation is training the staff at the library, and anyone who's interested, really, town-wide, any department can take it. There's a process for digital navigator training. So someone or multiple staff at the senior center will be familiar and aware. And then any trainings that do exist will be given either at the library or at the senior center or at the veteran center. I think those are the three key places. I can't foresee them being held in too many other places, with the library being the primary focus. But with putting a lot of faith in the great library system and staff that you do have to coordinate with the senior center staff and veteran center staff. So between those three places, Leominster's lucky to have good sites and good staff and coordinate the training through the library, I would imagine, at each of those locations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Awesome.
Councilor Cormier?
Thank you very much. One of the things I found interesting was you had mentioned that 99% of the city has access, so 1% doesn't. I'd be curious to know, I mean, based on our population, if my math serves me correctly, that means between 430 and 440 or so people in this city have no access, not by their choosing, correct?
Right.
And I'd be curious to know, like, where, because...
Yeah, it's even less than 1% because there were 2 digits beyond that, and I believe it was 99 point on the higher end of the point.
Yeah.
So it's really a less than 1%.
Okay.
But still, in a city of this size, that equates to, you know, a couple hundred or a few hundred individuals, right?
Yeah.
At a minimum. And yeah, that's, there's a program called the BEAD program right now that went on simultaneously to this planning process where the cable providers, the ISPs, internet service providers, are required to, those locations are now identified, and they're required to provide service to all of those locations within a certain amount of time. And so that's a process that's being done now. Some of them, you know, with so many different parcels and areas, there may be some that are a rear lot to another parcel, or for some reason, there's some difficulty in getting it to that location. And the cable companies are required to get it to a certain point at the street in front of the home, and then sometimes a homeowner will have to then get it up the driveway or whatever.
Gotcha.
I would imagine some of them may be a situation like that, where it could be cost prohibitive. But I think as these programs evolve, that number is going to become less and less. So less than 1% is already a good place to be compared to some other communities. But that's going to get better and better. And as you get closer to zero, right, and you go from a couple hundred or a few hundred individuals down to dozens of individual locations, my guess is that there's going to be a way to find the funding to assist and to get it to that endpoint so that everybody has it. Or as technology progresses, there may be even ways to put up, you know, almost like a wireless access point that can get a high enough speed of internet without having to cable it to that last point. And, you know, I'm speaking a little bit ahead of myself here and outside of the realm of what we're doing, because that's part of the infrastructure component. But in reality, those are all technologies that do exist, and it's something they're working on. And I could foresee something like that where it's going to get easier and more affordable to reach those harder to reach places, those really difficult, less than the 1% areas that don't have it now, and they should soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was a very good presentation, and I mean, honestly, I see no downside to us accepting this. If there is one, I'm not seeing it. I think it's a good program, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's nothing, sometimes when something seems too good to be true, you question it. This is one of those cases where this is like, seems too good to be true, but it really is. It was fully funded by MBI for the planning and for that portion of the implementation. And again, I cross my fingers that the city gets closer to the 100,000 when they apply. But this, what we realized in doing this planning, we got excited about it about halfway through it when we started to really realize the needs and then the impacts that this small program could have, and for a small amount of money. And when you start factoring things down for the amount of money spent per individual and the ways in which you could serve individuals, I mean, you're talking about pennies on the dollar for this type of program and for a real benefit and a real need. And we got excited about that when we realized the impact that it could have. And so, yeah, we'll continue to work with it in our capacity, as long as there's funding available, we're hoping to do more with digital equity planning. And I know MBI is too, and they're working on state funding programs to make up for some lost federal funding. Yeah, I think that this is something that local municipalities can really benefit from, and whether the funding is state, federal, or local, it's money well spent.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Councilor Bedanza.
I don't know if the $100,000 sounds like a lot of money or not enough. I'm not sure, like, what I'm concerned about, I suppose, is how much of that $100,000 gets eaten up in consultant fees?
None, zero. The 4,000 that I noted was separate, aside from the grant. It was provided by MBI as part of the funding program. And so again, our work at MRPC, nothing comes from the grant.
So who's MBI?
MBI is the Massachusetts Broadband Institute, the Mass Technology Collaborative.
How are they funded?
I believe they're a state entity. Their funding is probably state budget and federal funds.
So at the end of the day, we're paying for it.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, a lot of these.
So what's the largest of the procurement from this, if we get the $100,000, what do you see as the largest category of procurement of that $100,000?
I think public space internet, making internet available in the public spaces.
Hardware or training, or is that, are those lumped together? Or?
Combination. Let me look, because I have some notes on the grant.
Just if I could say a couple things. First, I want to thank Jeff for his work on this and his team. This kind of model has really helped a lot in the history of our city since I've been here. There's a planning grant, and then there's a construction grant, or there's, like with our open space plan, we planned for which priority projects we wanted to have open space, park projects, that sort of thing. Complete streets, we did the, priority sidewalks. This grant, we're looking at, you had people like the library, the senior center, the veteran center, the people who really serve the low, moderate income people who need this type of service. So having them involved really got us down to exactly what we need. So when we have the planning grant, and we determine what our needs are, we can go immediately. There isn't this process that used to take 4 years of a planning grant. This is quick. Then we get the construction money or the implementation money, and we're going to buy. We're going to do outside workstations like at Mechanic Street Park. We're going to do digital literacy videos. We're going to buy laptops, Chromebooks, hotspots. There's going to be some tech help. We're going to work with LTV. This is a smaller portion of money, but we're going to work with LTV on how to do on internet safety. So once we bring once we bring people on to using the internet, make sure that they, are taken advantage of in some way. There's going to be some translation tables at the library, I believe, just at the library. But it's a lot of hardware that we're going to be able to purchase.
The great thing about that is it stays with the community. This isn't lost in very little, if any, of this is in consulting fees or in labor or in staff time. In some ways, that's not the best spending of funds when the public funds coming in available one time only, because that's then spent and gone. All of the things like Wendy just listed are things that will be purchased, that will be here in the city, digital resources that will be accessible for years to come. And the great thing about working with Leominster TV and doing some trainings is that it's using a little bit of that grant funding to spend some money to do those videos, but then those videos exist and can be streamed year to year. Long after the grant's done, there's still training and teaching.
Did you want me to repeat my question?
Sure, go ahead.
I know you were looking at your notes. I was just curious about what the biggest procurement from the $100,000 was.
So it would be the public space internet category. That would be computers for the library, work pods for privacy. So if a senior or a veteran or someone needed to do a consultation or a telehealth appointment and they don't have access to the internet at home, they can have a private space to do it that they wouldn't have to reserve.
the outdoor workstation that Wendy mentioned.
Do you know what the percentage of that is for that hardware?
The
The 100 grand, do you know how much of that goes for that kind of hardware?
39,000 is in the public space internet improvements
Okay.
of that. It's pretty well spread out. That's the largest. But following that, you have device distribution, which is for people who do trainings and participate in the trainings. They'll get a device to use and to take home with them. The next one following that is education and outreach at 18,000, and digital literacy at 10,000. So the largest expenses are in the physical things that will stay, equipment.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You all set, Councilor McDaniel?
Yep.
Anyone else? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much. I think it was a nice, thorough, and very clear to me, what you guys have been doing and the folks that you've been talking to. And I think, the library, the senior center, and the veteran center are exactly the right places because I know from experience, as you guys know, that that's where people go to help. They go for their help. Veterans go there, seniors go to the senior center. The library serves everybody in the community, and they're doing a lot of that right now. So I think this is a great step. And one thing that I think it's 1% or less than 1% of people in the area don't have access to internet, but then there's 8% or something close to that can't afford it, even if the broadband is available or even if the internet is available. So that's another thing I think that you're addressing with this, and I think that's very, very important because kids throughout the city, regardless of their income level, they need access to the internet to get their schoolwork done. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation.
Okay, at this point, we're going to have to open the meeting. So if you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'll take the roll call of the councilors in attendance, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Arndinger.
Present.
Councilor Noseworthy.
Present.
Councilor Tossi.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Robbins.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
Shall be recorded as present. All 9 members of the council are in attendance. Does the chairwoman of records have a report?
I do, Mr. President. I'm actually going to ask for further time on the July 14th minutes, please.
Okay, that may be done.
I'll make a
Have
motion for a recess.
Second. All in favor, please recognize the usual manner. We're in recess. We can continue. Councilor, were you all set with your questions? or-
Are you all set?
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Noseworthy?
Thank you. I first want to thank both of you for your hard work with regards to this really important topic. As a parent during COVID, I really fought and advocated for digital access for everybody because it was so important. We saw how much it really impacted underserved populations more than anybody else. So a couple of things. One, I'm really excited about this. I really appreciate your talking about equity versus equality. I know there's not enough time to delve into that, but that's a huge, important distinction. I'm excited at the thought of having maybe a language drop down for our city's website to increase equitable access, to help with both education and employment. Like I said, during COVID, all of those things that came out, it's really great that you're going to be addressing this. But I guess one of my questions is also, and maybe we don't have the answers tonight, I'm really excited about this. I think it's really important and something that we should be investing in, but looking at making sure that this very important investment is sustainable in the long term, for sure, as the president had mentioned, because I do think that equitable access to digital literacy for as the at-large counselor was mentioning, certain individuals, whether they're older veterans, whether they're people who don't quite understand how to access things. I do appreciate the training and things that you're talking about. Low vision and really looking at the AD because it is more fiscally responsible to create something that's accessible to everyone and move forward than to go back and fix that. And the last thing I'll just share with this, and I'm sure we probably already know this with the library, is when you, on the flip side of things, when you're making this so accessible, certain individuals, I'm a parent of children on the autism spectrum, whether it's individuals on the spectrum or other individuals with disabilities, ensuring that it's not just signing, something that says, I won't go to any bad websites, because that is such a difficult thing, and people don't know, the laws with regards to digital access. So I would just sort of say as you move forward, to look at that piece with an extra magnifying glass to make sure that we protect some of those individuals that may not know what they're getting themselves into. Thank you so much.
All set? Yes. Councilor Arndinger?
Yeah, thank you very much. You mentioned these privacy pods, and I'm looking at the Veteran Center, the Senior Center, and probably the library too, because I don't think there's any place that I can vision where they could be placed. So that could be a building cost, and how would that be covered?
They're not as large as you might think, and they're pretty portable. And so I think that they've identified some places where they could be located.
Okay. Temporarily.
And they could even, they could come off of a wall. They don't really need their own space, and so they could be placed against the wall, or they could come sort of kitty corner off the wall. And they're, depending on, I think they're individual booths. They're not a double booth. Bigger than a telephone booth, but smaller than, they're probably.
I was going to say, is it like something smaller than the version of the person that's sitting in there?
A lot smaller than that. A good way to put it is they're individual workstations. So you're sitting in a pod with your desk and all the plugins underneath and everything, and you can either stand or sit usually. But they're not large. They're pretty modest, but they serve the purpose for the soundproofing, giving you that level of kind of privacy. And in libraries, it's important to have a space that doesn't have to be reserved in advance. And a lot of the spaces in the library are geared towards tutoring and group type sessions where multiple people. This is geared towards a space that one person can use, without really having to reserve it a week in advance or whatever for a short period of time.
Okay. Looking at the Veteran Center, basically there's one big hall that is rented out on a regular basis. If you had those things on the wall even, I know there have been cases of vandalism and stuff like that. It seems like they could be damaged very easily.
Yeah, there's only two specified in the grant, and they're both specified for the library. So in talking with the Senior Center and the Veteran Center the library must have indicated that they had space for it, and the others maybe don't, or don't have a direct need, or the need can be served at the library. Okay. So there's two specified for the library.
Well, personally, I'd like to see them in the Veteran Center and the Senior Center.
I don't disagree with you, and that was why I made the point of them being mobile, because the city could choose pretty easily. The same thing with the outdoor workstation that's been proposed for the Mechanic Street Park. That can be moved to different locations. You wouldn't want to do it every day probably, but a DPW can move that with the right equipment without too much trouble. It's not a permanent installed fixture. And so if you ever wanted to showcase it at an event downtown or bring it to another park or playground or outside of the library for a demonstration, that could be done pretty easily. And the pods are the same way. If you thought a better location for the pod was the Senior Center, it could be placed there, and vice versa with the Veteran Center.
You all set, Councilor Arndinger?
Thank you.
Councilor Robbins.
Thank you. I'll first also by saying thanks for all of your hard work on this. I think it's a really, really important topic that we are looking at now. Because we've talked about the pods so much, I'd be curious to know if they're like ADA accessible for people in wheelchairs and stuff like that.
It looks like the ones that are spec'd here likely are.
Okay.
There are two versions, one smaller and one of them that's ADA compliant. Based on the budget numbers that are listed here, I think these are both ADA compliant.
Good, obviously
Yes,
an important piece.
Yep.
Talking about the 8% that can't afford access, I understand that a lot of this work is kind of more around like getting them some sort of temporary access, whether it's a hotspot, whether it's going to a public space. But working in the nonprofit field with a lot of these people who may not be able to afford the access, also taking a trip is an additional barrier. Is there any work being done around trying to close that 8% gap for more permanent access?
At home?
Yeah, at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, is
So
what I was thinking.
What we looked at with this grant, and we had to make a decision based on the needs and the best way to serve the community with a limited set of funds over a long period of time. And you could have tried to focus on providing internet to individuals that were at the greatest need, right? Low-income individuals or some of the other 8 covered populations. However, we looked at it, and if you were to do, first of all, the grant is only good for 1 year. And then it would be done. So we thought the best use of the funds and it would go the furthest would be to provide internet in places that are easily accessible, public spaces, publicly accessible, and not just in one place, but in a few different locations, and all of them located on the public transit route, which is important. And I think there was even some talk, it's not included in here, but in the future, a great program, just like you have a van for seniors that need to get to medical appointments, things like that, and you have the programs for Meals on Wheels and things of that nature. Especially in the rural areas that came up, we could really see a program where digital access has transit or transportation around it too, if there was a sustainable mechanism to have that, right? But the best we could do right now with the funds is by putting it in public locations where everyone can access it, in a space that's easily, accessible by the current public transit routes, and that's what we tried to focus on.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that, and don't think for a second that it would have been a better use to try to get it to people's doors. It would be far more expensive, and to your point, 1 year and then we're kind of back in that same situation. I hope that in the future there may be other grant opportunities where we can try to help subsidize or something for those people who want it but can't get it, specifically to Councillor Shalfo-Zephyr's point, for kids in school, who may need it.
I think that's one of the benefits of doing a deep dive like this as a planning grant, because maybe this funded, the hardware and in our public buildings. But now if Mass Broadband has additional funds, we can say to them, we did this planning grant, we couldn't get this part done, we need help to do that. So there won't need to be a planning grant. We have one and we can point to it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And we look at this as a first step to a long-term, right? This is going to get us, this is a big first step, and it's a good one. And it's one that doesn't cost the city anything, which is great, right? But this is a first step, and MBI is working on additional programs and future programs for digital literacy and other things that will help continue to serve needs over time. And one thing that MRPC hopes could come out of this planning, we worked with 9 different communities. We foresee a coalition where each community has 1 or 2 representatives that meet monthly or quarterly to talk about the needs of their, to bring the needs of their community to the table and to talk about these, not only the 9 plans, we're hoping that all 22 communities in the Montechusett region join at this table with some representatives and businesses too, and what the needs are of the different businesses, and to have this coalition is something that carries this plan forward, in that each municipality, the 9 that we worked with that have a plan, will carry their plans forward, but that regionally we'll also be working on bigger picture things and trying to connect dots. And we got excited about these opportunities, and we see a lot of opportunity. We understand this is only a first step, but we see the opportunity.
I think that piece is really critical just because of how quickly things change in the kind of digital technology world. And if we're all going at it by ourselves, we're spending a lot more money to do the same process that Fitchburg is doing and Gardner is doing. So I think that collaboration, wherever we can get it, is something Leominster has always done, but that we can continue to be good at. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other Councilor Frida?
just real quick, just someone who really doesn't have a lot to do with the internet. I don't do Facebook, I don't do any of that, but I think just the term, the digital equity, kind of says it all. I mean, everybody needs to have that access. And I'm just reminded of a number of years ago on a committee that I serve on, there was a gentleman who was a selectman from the town of Mount Washington in the western part of the state with 14,000 acres and 165 residents. And every year, when we'd have a meeting with the Baker administration, it was always this push, and he'd stress again and again on how important it was because they had no access. And to listen to him talk about it meant people not being able to contact the hospitals or a code red or any type of an emergency situation.
Yeah.
So I think we're fortunate to have been able to get this grant. And thank you for working on it. And, you know, I hopefully, as everyone said, little by little, it can progress into everybody, you know, being able to access what they need to access.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, and thanks for sharing that story, because we really are lucky, and we're in a better position than some places like Mount Washington, Massachusetts, and other parts of the Berkshires. And even closer to home, Shutesbury, Massachusetts, up until only a few years ago, had no internet, and a few homes had satellite internet and whatever, and they worked together as a municipality to get a municipal network going. And when they did the surveys, they kind of figured they could get up to about 70% of their residents to sign on. And they said, okay, that's a good enough number. It'll make sense numbers-wise. It will work for the municipal network. So they moved forward with it based on those survey results. Well, when it came time to roll it out, they had over 90% of people enroll in the service. And they looked back at some of the surveys that came back in the locations, and they went back to some individuals and some target groups that had, like the aging adult groups that said, no, they don't need it. They had changed their mind. And so the community in their follow-up kind of said, what made you change your mind? Why did you decide to sign on it when you said you wouldn't at first? And they said, well, this is, we're out here, and our grandkids won't come visit us because we don't have internet. And we thought we didn't need it, but when our children and told our grandkids that we had the opportunity to get it, and they encouraged us, and we talked about it, and we thought, oh boy, if anything, to get to see our grandkids a little bit more often. So they all signed on, so that's kind of an interesting thing about access and about, everyone, right? And this is important to everyone. And some of those people signed on just because they knew it was important to their grandkids, but not necessarily to them. So that's
But to the credit, the first thing the Baker administration did do was get internet access and broadband to the Mount Washington community.
Yeah.
And it was like watching a bunch of little kids, and me, who has really no knowledge of the internet, it was just kind of exciting to watch them all, really. But it was also very important.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? We all set? All right, Jeff, I want to thank you so much. It's obviously that we're very well prepared for the meeting. You almost anticipated all our questions.
You got to know the program pretty well. Like I said, we really did get excited about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Wendy, thank you for bringing this to us. Great presentation. We're going to take it up a little bit later in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And with that, Mr. President, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
And I guess we're ready for our 6:30 public hearing. Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yes, we are. So this is a public hearing on petition 1-26. My name is Sue Shalfo-Zephyr. I'm the chairperson of the Legal Affairs Committee. Councilor Robert Tossi to my right is on the committee, as well as Pauline Cormier, who is the Ward 2 councilor. So petition 1-26. Ward 2 councilor Pauline M. Cormier and at-large councilor Brandon Robbins request to move pursuant to Mass General Laws C89, Section 9, and Leominster Municipal Code Ordinances, Section 13-79, yield signs, designating Mechanic Street southwesterly across the street from the most southerly point of the Mechanic Street Delta Island as a yield street, be amended to a full stop sign and designated as a stop street as defined by and pursuant to 13-77. So I will, I guess I'll go to my committee members to see if they have any comments on this before I go to the public. Councilor Tossi?
Yes, I think it's a great idea because it's a very dangerous area there, and it was, whoever came up with the idea, it's excellent.
Councilor Cormier?
This was a number of constituents called, asked if there was anything we could do, and this was it seems like the most reasonable thing to do. Everyone in the community, I can tell you over there, is they've sent myself and Councilor Robbins some emails, some thank yous for getting this on the agenda, getting it noticed. So I think it'll be a big improvement over there.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I travel that route all the time, and I'm glad that it will be a stop because I think it's very dangerous. Is there anybody else on the council who would like to comment? Councilor Frida?
Yep. I also agree. I think with the increased traffic that we have now, with the increase in all the business in the area, compound that with the work that's going to start on the Minnesota Brook, it's really going to be a disaster. So that's certainly a perfect opportunity to put a stop sign there. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else on the council who'd like to weigh in? If not, then I will go to the public. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in support or against petition 1-26? For a second time, is there anybody who'd like to speak in support of or in opposition to petition 1-26? And for a third and final time, is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in support of or in opposition to 1-26? All right, seeing nobody who wants to weigh in on this, my recommendation at this point would be to close the public hearing.
Very well. And that leads us to the final public hearing of the evening.
Mm-hmm. This is a public hearing, C-94, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request an increase of $1,000 for Leominster School Committee members, along with an annual cost of living increase based on the Consumer Price Index. This increase would begin at the start of the next term. So this was, there's been some confusion about this, and we did get a response from the mayor. We did get, there's some other emails that went back and forth amongst a councilor and a school committee member who shed some light, I think, on the process and how things might have gotten a little mixed up. So in any case, I'll read those into the record when we have our discussion during our regular meeting. But at the public hearing, I guess I'd like to hear from anybody if they want to weigh in on C-94. Are there any city councilors who'd like to comment one way or the other? Okay. Seeing none, I'll go to the public. Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on C-24?
Sure. Hi, Eileen Griffin, 135 Highland Ave. As a school committee member, I just wanted to kind of refresh people's memory that we currently get $2,000 per year. And we haven't had a raise in 10 years. I've served on the committee for like 30 years, so there was 20 years that I did not get any compensation. So nobody is doing this, for the money, for sure. But just to augment, for our time, we are obviously attending lots of events and contributing money back to the school system. I think, as a school committee, we voted for there to be an increase of $2,500. And the mayor had indicated in an email to all of us that that's what he was going to be requesting. So it's very confusing, and I look forward to hearing maybe some responses because we've gotten no clarification, where the discrepancy is or how, that amount has changed, because the committee had voted unanimously, for a certain amount. So I'm not sure how that kind of filtered down. So I wanted to, make sure that the appropriate avenue has been adhered to, and, I guess it's not really clear to me that it has, so I'm hopefully to get some more clarification later on in the meeting. I would like, I guess, personally, an opportunity to, discuss it as a school committee. We don't have our next meeting until sometime in August, but it's unclear, I think, to the committee at large, where and how we got to where we are. Clearly, we do appreciate the ongoing funding to be very similar to that of this city council for increased, raises, in the future. We were hoping, I think, to start at a different, point, given it's been a very long time for us not to have any increase, in the stipend that we receive. And we clearly are hoping that being on the committee is not cost prohibitive to other folks who may have childcare, arrangements and things like that they need to pay out of pocket in order to attend the meetings. So we were hoping that it would be something that would be more equitable and inclusive to all folks. Clearly, anything is better than nothing, but I think we were hoping for, sort of a different stance. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in support of or in opposition to C-94?
Hello again. Melissa Bible, 178 Fifth Street. I agree with everything that Eileen has said. And I think, we were just talking about equity in a digital process, but I think over the year and a half that we have been trying to get any sort of additional compensation for the next round of members that'll be on, it's been really disheartening to see that how we as other elected officials have been treated and undervalued. I think we're elected officials and we should reflect the community that we represent. And when you have a city council and you have a school committee that is all white, is all middle to upper class, economics, are we really having a real knowledge base of those that we are served to represent? And this was a way to try to provide additional equitable access to being able to represent those that need representation. As a school committee, we've done a lot of work on equity and providing equitable services to the students and the staff that we are charged to represent. And we would like to be able to have members of the committee that look like Leominster and the diversity of Leominster. And to do that, when 44% or less than half of the committee has children, why is that? Is it because you don't have the financial costs to provide childcare? Is it because you're a single parent? What are the reasons for that? And so our work was trying to increase the opportunities for people in our community to serve our community and to provide different vantage points. It's also been really frustrating that after our email in June where we said, whoa, what happened? How come we were going to get a $4,500 cost? It's now $3,000. We asked for information and no one responded to us. How do you value us when you can't respond to an email from other elected officials? So I'm just asking, like Eileen said, something is better than nothing. I'm not running for school committee next year, so I'm not going to be privy to that. But I think as a committee and as a community, we need to be able to reflect the community that we are and give access to the community that we are. Thank you.
Can I just make something clear? We can't respond as a body by the internet, okay?
Absolutely.
We have to respond as a result of deliberations at an open meeting. So that may explain in part why, that's what we're doing this evening, in essence, is we're deliberating in an open session. We can't have an email exchange.
Absolutely.
And comply
It would
with
be
the open meeting law.
Absolutely, but individually, you can respond to individual members And
You cannot, the open meeting law would prohibit one city councilor from responding to that question to the entire school committee.
correct.
Okay,
But you could do.
so if you were talking about one city councilor responding to one school committee member,
Correct.
that's okay. But what you're really insinuating was that we as a body, or us, at least that one city councilor should have responded to the school committee, is inappropriate legally.
Correct. But it also
Just wanted to make that
it
clear.
also came from our secretary, and no one responded to her either.
That's not, may I?
Yeah, you surely can.
It did. The question did come from the secretary for the school committee, and I did have an exchange with Chris Silverman to understand what was going on and then try to get to the bottom of it. So I think I want to be clear about that somebody did respond to the secretary of the school committee who raised an issue and was looking for clarification.
Let me rephrase that. People responded that they did not have a knowledge of what happened, how it went overnight from 4,500 to 3,000.
That's right.
But it does appear that there has been discussion over the weeks that led to that.
That is correct.
And there was no response about that.
Well, I have a response that will be read into the record tonight.
Correct. Thank you.
Yep. So,
Last but not least, my name is Ronnie Hool. I'm on the Leominster School Committee. I represent Ward 2A, B, and C. And I agree with everything that Eileen and Melissa have talked about. I'm not going to go over fine and tooth everything that was said, other than what the sheriff said in Cool Hand Luke. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Because as you said, somebody somewhere dropped the ball on what was to be done. No one's blaming anyone. No. Am I blaming somebody? No. But we all heard. We're not dumb. Somebody didn't say something to somewhere. And so we're left wondering what to do. Nobody's trying to pin tail on any donkey. No. It's just that it seems like we're going over and over and over and over and over. And, Einstein said, if you keep on trying to do something over and over on the same thing, it's a sign of insanity. Somehow, somewhere, something's got to be straightened out. That's all. I said my said.
okay, for a third and final time, is there anyone in the public who would like to weigh in on C-94, either in support or in opposition to C-94? Mr. President, at this point, I think I'm going to keep this public hearing open.
Okay. We'll now conduct the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. The only person signed up is Eileen Griffin, and I'm not sure if you've already said your piece.
Yeah, I've already talked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the city council this evening in the public forum? And for a second time,
This is not related to the school committee petition,
Yes,
but
sure.
Melissa Bible, 178 Fifth Street. In my day job, I'm an executive director of a housing authority, and we have worked with MBI in order to provide digital access to the tenants that I serve through a residential retrofit program, and MBI has been wonderful. Tons of praise for them. Thank you.
thank you. And is there any other member of the public that wishes to address us this evening in the public forum? For a second time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address us in the public forum on an agenda item? And for a third and final time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council this evening? Seeing none, I will declare the public forum closed and move on to communications from the mayor, starting with C7.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $2,261,190 be made to the general fund capital accounts listed below, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. These funds are needed to fund the fiscal year 2025 capital requests from various departments. Please see a list below and the attached documentation.
C7 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me, before I give this regular course, I would like to, based on the request we received today by the Comptroller Jennifer Reddington at 1:25 this afternoon, I would like to replace the language on C-7, and I am going to make a motion that it read, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $2,261,190 be made to the general fund capital accounts listed below, same amount to be transferred from the capital stabilization account. So we are basically replacing capital stabilization account with excess and deficiency account. Obviously, there's no free cash certification. That was a mistake that was made by the comptroller, so I'm going to make that motion that we update C-7.
Do I have a second on the motion? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please recognize the usual manner. Okay, that's amended, and I take it you want regular course?
So C-7 as amended will be given regular course.
Very well. C7 is given regular course. C8.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the City Council vote to approve the attached Veterans Tax Work-Off Program.
C8 is referred to the Chairwoman of Legal Affairs.
C8 should be given regular course with referrals to the comptroller, and there's a letter attached from the Veterans Director, so we don't need to go back to him, but just the comptroller, please.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to suggest a hearing date of August 11th at 6:50 p.m., if that's all right, Counselor?
Perfect.
All right. 11/14 is it the next Monday? It's the 11th. All right, so all those in favor of giving C8 for the, regular course as a public hearing on 8/11 at 6:50 with referrals to the comptroller, please recognize usual manner. All right, that may be done. Moving on to 2-26.
Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated requests permission to locate poles and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. 10th Street, National Grid to install one jointly owned pole on 10th Street beginning at a point approximately 360 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Water Street and continuing approximately 15 feet in a northerly direction, installing a new pole to provide service 75 10th Street, Leominster, Mass. Location approximately as shown on the plan attached. Wherefore it prays that after due notice and hearing as provided by law, it be granted a location and for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires together in such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may be necessary, said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked 10th Street, Leominster, Massachusetts, number 311-26515. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or instructing public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of the said petitioners may desire, distributing purposes.
2-26 is referred to the Chairman of Public Service.
Regular course, please, with referrals to both the DPW and the Leominster Police Department.
All right, and I'm going to suggest a hearing time of August 11th at 6:51 p.m., if that's okay, Mr. Chairman?
Sure is. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of establishing a public hearing on 2-26?
Mr. President, if the record may reflect that I am abstaining, this equipment is partially owned by my employer.
That may be done. All those in favor of establishing a public hearing on August 11th at 6:51 p.m. with referrals to the DPW and Police Department, please recognize the usual manner. By a vote of 8-0, that may be done. Moving on to matters before the City Council. starting with the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We began our fiscal year on July 1, 2025 with a balance of $24,086,485.59. This is for the City of Leominster's stabilization account. Provided that C-4 and C-5 pass this evening, we will have spent $1,105,000, leaving us with a balance of $22,981,485.59. The Capital Stabilization Fund began with a balance of $4,593,191.62. Provided that C7 passes at the next meeting, we will have spent $2,261,190, and that will leave us with a balance of $2,332,001.62. And the opioid stabilization started with $577,545.87. At the last meeting, we spent $81,923.06, which leaves us with a balance of $495,622.81, and that is the financial report.
Any questions? Seeing none, before we move on to matters before the Finance Committee, Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means, would you like to move forward on Ms. Boucher's appointment?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. This C-6, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, respectfully requests the appointment of the following to the Board of Appeals, term to expire April 15th of 2028. We spoke with Attorney Elizabeth Boucher, who was with us earlier this evening and remains here today. Ms. Boucher comes to us with an outstanding resume, outstanding potential, a great desire to be an active member and volunteer on the ZBA. It would be my position to grant this appointment, and I'd ask you to check with the members of my committee.
Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
And Councilor David Cormier?
I also agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to confirm the appointment of Elizabeth Boucher to the Board of Appeals. Any discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Noseworthy.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay. Congratulations by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Moving on to matters before finance, starting with C-2. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-2, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $5,000 be made to the Twin Cities Rail Trail lease payments account, the same amount to be transferred from the Twin Cities Rail Trail grant account. First of all, I'm going to ask for an amendment. Basically, what we're doing is we are flipping the accounts. The one that it says it's supposed to come from, it's supposed to go to, and vice versa. So I'm going to read the motion that I'd like to make, and I'd like it to read per Jen Reddington. This communication was sent from her today at 1:24. It should actually read, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $5,000 be made to the Twin Cities Rail Trail grant account, the same amount to be transferred from the Twin Cities Rail Trail lease payments account. And that'd be my motion, that we make that amendment.
Did you read that correctly? You want the money to come from the rail trail account, grant account, or the lease trail lease payments account?
It is, the money is coming, the money is going to the grant account from the rail trail lease account. So, and I'll explain that in a minute. And yeah, I know it is confusing. I actually was second guessing it before I came to the meeting, but no, it's right.
Okay.
It is right as her suggested amendment.
Okay. All right. Do we have a second? Councilor Pauline Cormier, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of amending the communication, please recognize usual manner. Is done by a vote of 9-0. Now you can explain.
Okay, so basically what we are doing, we have taken some of this money before As some may remember, we do get some leasing. We do have some leasing agreements, and we do collect some fees from that annually. So basically, this is coming from Amanda Curtis, the Economic Development person, and she's respectfully requesting appropriation to be moved. Again, she worded it wrong, but it's coming from the lease to the grant. And these funds are going to be utilized to pay the outgoing of the current outstanding invoices and upcoming fall invoices from the contractor Delakii Landscaping for maintenance of the Twin Cities Rail Trail. So basically, we collect some small amounts that we have for lease agreements, and they do mowing, mulching, maintenance of the rail trail. So we need to move that money from the account that we have the lease payments sitting in to the grant account so that we can pay the bills, and it would be my recommendation that we grant C-2, and I'll ask you to poll my committee.
Are these monies that are coming from people who have encroachments that are paying for them?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
And Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
You've heard this recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-2. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Frida?
I'm still confused. This is an account in the city? It's not with the rail trail?
That is
No?
correct. Yep, it's our account. There are agreements, and they collect the money for the lease agreements.
So this is our land that we're leasing
Correct.
to the rail trail?
No, we're
Who are we
leasing.
leasing it to?
There are some abutters that have a lease agreement, from what I understand. And I can get all the information again. I believe we had this previously. We did this previously within the past year or so. And I think Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr had asked for a whole extensive explanation about it. I gave one, but if I need to get the information again, all the details, I'd be happy to. But yeah, we collect from some of the abutters, we have agreements with them because they've encroached. And so they collect these fees, they go into this account. And when we do maintenance for the rail trail, mowing, mulching, things of that nature, this is how we're paying for it. We've done this before.
We own the rail bed.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So instead of making these people tear their buildings down, or they're making a payment.
Sounds like it should be an easier accounting process than this.
Well, I mean, they accumulate the money in that account, and then this is what they decided to do with
And
it.
then they ask us and we scrutinize it, so, yeah.
Anything else before we vote? Okay, all those in favor of C2, please recognize usual manner. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $5,000 be made to the Twin Cities Rail Trail Grant account, the same to be transferred from the Twin Cities Rail Trail lease payment account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 9-0. C3.
C-3, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $10,000 be made to the library's operating account / building and grounds, the same amount to be transferred from the library's state aid. We have a letter from Alex Flint, pretty self-explanatory, just some ongoing maintenance that they want to do. This transfer will allow the library to repair 2 masonry issues on its West Street side, which is a damaged retaining wall and a dip by the door that results in water pooling. So it sounds like there's been some settlement there over the years, and they want to fix that. And so they're asking for this transfer to do those things that will help to maintain the building. And it would be my recommendation that we grant C-3, and I also check with members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
And Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-3. Is there any additional discussion? Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr?
Just one quick comment. The area at the top of the stairs, the front steps where it pools, it's just their old, beautiful granite steps, but they do, it's a real hazard. I've been wanting to get this fixed for years because it gets icy. So
Right.
I'm thrilled that they're going to fix it now. It really needs to be done, so.
One of the contributing causes was the roof,
Yeah.
which has been repaired, we're happy to say. And I think for anybody's edification, at least in round numbers, the state aid account has a balance of about $500,000, just to put things in perspective. So we've accumulated a lot of that over the years.
That is correct.
So any additional thoughts, discussion? All right. All those in favor of granting C3, please recognize the usual manner. C3 has been granted by a vote of 9-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $10,000 be made to the library's operating account/building and grounds, the same amount to be transferred from the library's state aid account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by 9-0. Moving on to C4.
C-4, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $1 million be made to the Fallbrook Capital Project Fund, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund. Basically what this is I will read the letter dated July 24th from Comptroller Jen Reddington. I am writing in support of the proposed appropriation related to the culvert and sewer pipe work at Fallbrook Elementary School. This infrastructure is critical, not only for the functionality of the school site, but also for the protection of the surrounding public property and environmental integrity. The project addresses long-standing drainage and sanitary systems issues that, if left unresolved, could result in increased maintenance costs, potentially safety concerns, and disruption to school operations. Ensuring that these systems are upgraded and functioning properly will help preserve the school's infrastructure and provide a safer environment for students and staff. In addition to serving Fallbrook Elementary, this project will also benefit Samoset Middle School. The urgency of these improvements has been further underscored by the September 11th flood, which highlighted the vulnerabilities of the existing systems and the need for timely action. We respectfully request you favorably consider your favorable consideration of this appropriation to allow the work to proceed in a timely and efficient manner. So basically, obviously, this was declined by the MSBA. This cannot be used as part of the project. So, this needs to be done after talking to the comptroller. That's probably been some infrastructure that's needed some upgrading for a while, but in light of the fact that there's going to be a lot of heavy equipment rolling over it, once they start construction and whatnot, they want to get this repaired sooner than later. And so basically, this is a cash deal. We're going to pay for it cash up front. We're not going to make this part of the building aspect of it, which we'd have to, be another $1 million we'd have to go out to bond for. So we're going to do this sooner than later, pay cash for it. And I know that Mr. Lanza will probably be happy because he had asked me about this during the, when they were talking about the plan for the school. And so here it is. They are doing it. They're proposing to do it based on our vote, and it'd be my recommendation that we grant C-4, and I ask that you check with members of my committee.
Sure. Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
And Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-4. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-4, please recognize usual manner. C-4 is granted by a vote of 9-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $1 million be made to the Fallbrook Capital Project Fund, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to C-5.
C-5, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $105,000 be made to the Building Capital Fund, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund. This is basically regarding the space that we are sitting in right now. Dear councilors, this is from Jennifer Reddington, dated July 24th. I am writing in support of the proposed appropriation related to the heating and air conditioning system at City Hall. We are very fortunate to have the ARPA funding cover the cost of upgrading a system that was over 50 years old. With that support, we were able to complete the heating improvements on the first and second floors. This request represents the city share of the funding needed to complete the project by upgrading the heating and air conditioning system to the lower level. The work completed thus far has already resulted in a significant improvement in the air quality and overall comfort within City Hall. Finishing the final phase will ensure consistent, reliable heating throughout the entire building. We respectfully request your favorable consideration of this appropriation. It would be my recommendation that we grant this. It will affect the lower level here, right where we are. And also, we're heading into a time of year where they want to get this project moving sooner than later, because either the spring or the fall is a time when, you know, nature is usually friendly and you don't need heat or air conditioning in the fall. So they want to get this done certainly before winter, so that it doesn't turn ice cold down here, because they're working on the system in the middle of winter, so they'll do it sooner than later. It'd be my recommendation that we grant C-5, and I'll ask you to check with members of my committee.
Nice to hear we're in the lower level and not the basement.
Yeah, I like that
Councilor
too.
Pauline Cormier?
Yeah, I agree.
Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-5, please recognize your little manner. C-5 is granted by a vote of 9-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $105,000 be made to the building capital fund, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to Ways and Means and C1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the digital equity plan as submitted by the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission be considered and subsequently approved by the City Council. We had Jeff down here earlier today, along with Wendy Weeks. It was a very extensive evaluation that they did. They have found some shortcomings and have put a plan in place to bring that digital equity to the city. It would be my position to grant the implementation of this program, and I'd ask you to check with other members of my committee.
Sure. Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
And Councilor David Cormier.
I also agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant C-1. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to do this by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Noseworthy.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Tossi. Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Now she has
This
recorded.
is so sudden.
They got married.
There might be some underlying reason for that. I don't want to say what it is publicly, but, all right, so C1 is granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to legal affairs.
Right, petition 1-26, Ward 2 Councilor Pauline M. Cormier and at-large Councilor Brandon Robbins. The request to move pursuant to Mass General Laws C-89, Section 9, and Leominster Municipal Code Ordinances, Section 13-79, yield signs, designating Mechanic Street southwesterly across the street from the most southerly point of the Mechanic Street Delta Island as a yield street, be amended to a full stop sign and designated as a stop street as defined by and pursuant to Section 1377. We did have a public hearing earlier this evening at 6:30 p.m. that we closed after hearing no opposition to this change. We did get 2 recommendations back that I'd like to read into the record supporting the petition. Excuse me. This one is dated July 18th, 2025 from the Department of Public Works. Ms. Elizabeth Doiron regarding petition 1-26. Dear Elizabeth, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed the petition designating Mechanic Street southwesterly across the street from the most southerly point of the Mechanic Street Delta Island as a yield street, be amended to a full stop sign and designated as a stop street, and offers the following comments. The DPW approves the petition as submitted. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. The second referral is back from Sergeant Greg Robichaud, dated July 17th. Good morning. The Leominster Police supports the petition. So with those two recommendations in hand, my recommendation would be to grant petition 1-26, and I ask that you poll my committee.
Councilor Tossi
I agree.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 1-26. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll do this by roll call. Councilor Frida?
Yay.
Councilor Robbins?
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yay.
Councilor Tossi?
Yay.
Councilor Noseworthy?
Yay.
Councilor Arender?
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier?
Yay.
126 has been granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to C94.
C94, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request an increase of $1,000 for the Leominster School Committee members, along with an annual cost of living increase based on the Consumer Price Index. This increase would begin at the start of the next term. So this was originally given regular course at the end of May, 5/27. We had a public hearing on 7/14, continued this evening at 6:35 p.m. So I do have a couple of things. I had asked the mayor for some clarification because there was some confusion about this. So, is this, yeah. Letter. Okay. So this letter is dated July 15th, 2025, Leominster City Council regarding C-94 School Committee pay increase. Dear members of the City Council, several months ago, I directed School Committee member Greg Thomas to work with Council President Bedanza to determine an amount for the school committee increase that would be acceptable to both Council and the school committee. At the time, it was my understanding that a $2,000 increase was the amount that the City Council would approve. Upon pursuing that with the council, my office was advised by the council president that the amount agreed upon was a $1,000 increase to $3,000 with the addition of a COLA. That is what I submitted. Sincerely, Dean J. Mazzarella. And then there was an email to the mayor from Councilor Bedanza, President Bedanza, dated July 15th. Dear Mayor, I do recall talking to you about a possible school committee raise in an amount less than the failed previous petitions. There seemed to be some appetite for a raise consistent with an accumulated COLA since the initial pay was established years ago, as well as a continuing COLA. As a cost of living increase. As a result, I reached out to Greg Thomas and suggested a $1,000 increase with a cost of living increase. Greg measured the appetite for that in some way and then mentioned it was generally acceptable. I then informed you of that fact. Several weeks went by without a communication. The day C-94 was filed, Wendy Weeks contacted me and asked the amount that should be included in the communication, and I replied $1,000 plus the COLA. I had no knowledge of any other amounts or arrangements that were made with school committee members at that time and only learned of that much later. The proposed increase is completely within your prerogative, of course. If a miscommunication caused a lower figure, it could be remedied by you sending a request to us seeking to amend the amount of the raise before our hearing on July 28th. I have purposely refrained from copying anyone on beyond the Legal Affairs Chair, the City Clerk, and Mr. Thomas, as this would constitute an open meeting law violation. And then we do have a response from Mr. Thomas, also dated Tuesday, July 15th. Hi, Mark and team. To clarify, there were 3 discussions regarding the pay increase. The first one we discussed by phone on January 8th, where the amount proposed was $500 less than what was voted upon by the City Council on the second occasion. Parentheses, I can't remember the number that was voted down. We then had a follow-up call on April 8th where Mark said that there was an, in quotation marks, internal discussion being had with the mayor and would get back to me. On June 25th, myself, Jen Alker, and I had a discussion about the $3,000 figure. During that discussion, both Jen and I felt satisfied with that number, but encouraged Mark to speak with others on the committee who felt more strongly about the increase. This discussion happened very informally, in parentheses, at a party, and I certainly didn't feel as though I was speaking on behalf of the school committee when I responded. Happy to discuss further with the group because there appears to be a lot of miscommunication with this whole process. So that's what I've received. And everything is dated July 15th, including the mayor's letter. So you know, at this point, I still think that there's some miscommunication here. Or there's not, I don't feel like there is a consensus, I guess.
All I can say is what I said in my email. I have no doubt, based on the presentation this evening of the school committee members, that the mayor told the school committee a different number.
Exactly.
And I did not talk to the mayor before the communication came down. And between my first discussions with the mayor and when that communication came down, I'm going to suggest that there was a passage of at least 6 to 7 weeks between point A and point B.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said in my email, it's the mayor's prerogative.
Right. Right.
You know, if he told them one thing and the communication came down as another, I would feel awfully bad about voting on that.
Right.
I mean, it's just, you know,
No, I
just seems
agree.
inappropriate.
I agree. And so my recommendation, which is why I kept the public hearing open, would be to give this further time. And I'm going to, I'll talk to the clerk about sending a referral back to the mayor, asking for clarification, giving him the opportunity to reconsider the vote that the school committee took previously.
Right. And there seemed to be some miscommunication in the amount as well, because I heard two different amounts before the school committee, 2,000 and 4,500, which meant a raise of 2,500. Those, I think, is what happened. I think at one point he had mentioned 4,500 as an ultimate figure, but then a $2,000 raise, which the math won't add. So I think what you're doing makes sense. We have some time, because of course it doesn't go into effect until the next term. But we got to get it straight. So I think what school committee member Hool indicated is there's been some miscommunication here.
There certainly has.
Yeah.
So at least at this point, we have some information from the folks who were involved.
Yep.
So my recommendation would be further time, and I would ask that you pull my committee.
So that would be Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
And Councilor Tossi.
I agree.
And I'm going to suggest 8:14 at 6:40.
8:11?
I'm sorry, 8:11.
Yep.
That's the assistant clerk's fault. She put that in my mind.
Uh-oh. At what time?
Not mine. 6:40?
Yep.
All right, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation to continue the public hearing to August 11th at 6:40 and give the petition for the communication rather further time. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please recognize the usual manner. Okay, that may be done. Moving on to new business and the first reading of an ordinance.
Yes, the first reading of an ordinance. So this is for petition 41-25. Lisa Nugent of 45 Beth Avenue, Leominster, requests that the city council prohibit all horse and dog racing and any associated betting or wagering anywhere within Leominster, Massachusetts by the following. So I will just now read the ordinance language. So the ordinance says, in the year 2025, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amend Chapter 22 of the revised ordinances entitled Zoning. Chapter 22 of the revised ordinances entitled Zoning is hereby amended by inserting the following definition to Section 22-4 definitions. Racetrack. Any tract of land where horses or dogs are raced and where any form of betting or wagering on the speed or ability of horses or dogs are permitted or conducted. And further amended in Section 22-17, underlying district's table of uses under the category business uses by adding the term racetrack and inserting the letter N in each district column. And further amended in Section 22-18, overlay districts table of uses under the category business uses by adding the term racetrack and inserting the letter U in each district column. My recommendation, Mr. President, this time would be to adopt the first reading.
Very well. Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You've heard a unanimous recommendation to adopt the first reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call. Councilor Frida?
Nay.
Counselor Robbins?
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yay.
Counselor Tosse?
Yay.
Counselor Noseworthy?
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger?
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier?
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier?
Yay.
That should be recorded as yay by a vote of 8 to 1. The first reading is adopted. Moving on to 48-25.
48-25, Thomas and Bavenzi, request an amendment to change zoning district of parcel 94-6, amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Leominster, Mass. To change the boundaries of the zoning district shown on the zoning map so that the parcel identified as Lot 6 on Assessor's Map 94, containing approximately 9,984 square feet and having an address of 44 Union Street, shall be located entirely in the Residence B district. And the ordinance reads as follows. In the year 2025, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 22 of the revised ordinances entitled Zoning. Chapter 22 of the revised ordinances entitled Zoning is hereby amended by amending the zoning map 94 established pursuant to Section 22-6, such that the following parcels shall be situated entirely in the Residence B zoning district. 26 Union Street, Assessors Parcel 94-4, 40 Union Street, Assessors Parcel 94-5, and 44 Union Street, Assessors Parcel 94-6. And it would be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we adopt the second reading.
Counselor Tosse?
I agree.
And Counselor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant the second reading of 48-25. Any discussion? See none, by roll call, Counselor Frida?
Yay.
Counselor Robbins?
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yay.
Counselor Tosse?
Yay.
Counselor Noseworthy?
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger?
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier?
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier?
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay. By a vote of 9-0, the second reading is adopted. Moving on to the second reading of C-103.
C-103, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request the adoption of the dispatch 2025 to 2027 salary scale. The FY 2025 retroactive portion will be paid from collective bargaining regarding updated salary scales from contract settlement from FY 2025 to FY 2027 agreement. And the ordinance reads, in the year 2025, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 16 of the revised ordinances entitled Personnel. Chapter 16 of the revised ordinances entitled Personnel is hereby amended by inserting into Section 16-30 compensation grades the Dispatch 2025 salary scale as follows. Dispatch 2025 through 2027 wage matrix. And then it is followed by three tables, one for FY25, a COLA of 3%, FY26, a cost of living increase of 3.5%, and FY27, a cost of living increase of 3.5%. My recommendation, and this, if anybody wants more detail on this, this is the matrix, the wage matrix is available in the city clerk's office. My recommendation would be to adopt the second reading, and I would ask that you poll my committee.
Counselor Tosse?
I agree.
And Counselor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to adopt the second reading of C-103. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call. Counselor Frida?
Yay.
Counselor Robbins?
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yay.
Counselor Tosse?
Yay.
Counselor Noseworthy?
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger?
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier?
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier?
Yay.
That will be recorded as yay. By a vote of 9-0, the second reading is adopted. Is there anything under the community calendar?
Mr. President, if I may, so I don't know, I meant to bring this up under new business, I apologize. C-7, at the mayor's request, he'd like to have his department heads come down. There's quite a bit of information in terms of some of these capital improvements that they want to make. And I'd like to do that in a subcommittee meeting. I don't want to try to hash this out right in the middle of our next meeting. So if I could, I'd like to poll my committee to see availability. The mayor's office had, I guess, taken a poll of the department heads. I know it's summer, it's a busy time. It looked like August 4th, which is next Monday at 5:30. I don't know if both members of finance at the very least are available. If not, at least I can give them advance notice that that's not going to work and then we need to find a different day, perhaps maybe Thursday the 7th at 5:30, or at 5:30 or 5:45 on the 11th before our next meeting. So if I could, just check with members of my committee. Councilor Cormier, do you?
Thursday, the 7th would work better for me at 5:30. On the 4th, it would be really, really pushing it. I don't think I'd be able to.
Okay.
Councilor Tossi?
I can do Thursday.
The 7th?
Yes.
Okay. I'll have the mayor's office circle back with the department heads and see if the 7th works best for everyone versus the 4th. It seems like it's better for us. So hopefully, so just keep your eyes open for a finance subcommittee meeting. Looking like one day next week, probably on the 7th. Okay? Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. I thought I saw Councilor Frieda's hand. Did you have something? Did you have anything?
Yes, I have old business. I just
Okay,
wanted to update on the Middlesex Integrative Medicine.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, there's no vote, so nobody has to move. The attorneys went to court last Thursday, the 24th. We were hoping to get more out of that action, but I think it was good because our lawyer really felt that the judge might have gone along with the original bankruptcy petition that was filed. He came out of there feeling better because they did not. The judge took it under consideration. So there's a hope that they will force them with a consent order to get out of the building. They're asking for more time. There was a point where our attorney was going to suggest trying to make some kind of an agreement with them just before they went into the court. I kind of disagreed, and then he really didn't want to do it, but he thought in the idea of getting, if there was a discussion in the court, that there might have been a consent order for another date, and it might have given the city some leverage, but he really wasn't hopeful for that. So hopefully we get an answer within the next few days. He thought it'd be the beginning of this week that we get an answer, and he said they could just go along with the 31st of August, which was the bankruptcy filing, but he's hoping it'll be sooner. But even if it is the 31st, the fact is that there'll be a consent order now, so they'll be in contempt of court if they don't get out. They're clearly playing games, and it's just unfortunate that this is happening. But that's the update, and I will let everybody know as soon as I hear from our attorney on whether we get something the beginning of the week.
Thank you for your report.
Mr. President, if I may, I would just ask that we.
Wait, you finished?
Yeah, no, I was just going to suggest, I don't know if anybody has a conflict with the other two facilities that we have, but in the course of talking to our attorney, and I think when our committee looked at information for the first, it was kind of combined numbers that were coming out of the comptroller's office on what we were actually getting. And I did notice going by the Pioneer Drive property that's open for business. There's flags there. They're in receivership, and there were quite a few cars there. So I'm going to suggest, Mr. President, I don't know if you have a conflict or if it'd be the vice president, but I'm going to suggest that this committee could stay intact so we can at least get information on the next two. And because if they're operating and they're in receivership, we don't know who's operating because we know the original owner is gone. So, I mean, 6 years worth of not getting information on any of these facilities. It's really kind of a bad practice, but I think we're really getting in a good position now on getting a handle on it, so.
I don't have any problem with the continuation of your committee. I don't have a conflict on the Pioneer Drive one, so, but thank you for your efforts on that. Are you all set? Thank you. Councilor Cormier?
I was just going to suggest, and I appreciate the update, but I was just going to suggest that we keep this on the agenda as an item under old business so that, I know there's going to be more information. The council just mentioned forthcoming, possibly the next meeting, probably should be on the agenda. It's not something unforeseen, so just so that, at least the public is aware that we're going to be
When was the court hearing,
Talk
Councilor
about some
Frida?
The
fashion.
24th,
Yeah. So that-
last Thursday.
Yeah, so that answers that question. Really was no other way to do it. And-
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have an answer that there's a consent order, because I think, there was a real confidence level that that could be a possibility, so.
All right, I would instruct the clerk then to list it under under old business on the next agenda. Anybody else? Community calendar?
Nope.
Okay, motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Yep.
Felt a little lonely down here this
City Council meeting
evening.
is funded in part by the Carolus Insurance Agency at www.thecarolusinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.